Hello everybody, this is General von Hoffman, and I'm coming to you today from the Expeditionary Maintenance Flight. Master Sergeant Howard, our first sergeant, has been gracious enough to find some questions from our folks, and he's got a few, and I'm going to try to answer them. So over to you.
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, first of all, thank you very much for doing this with us. It's great that you're doing this for our people and putting your face out there for everybody to see. Our first question is, do you think that production will be impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, or has it already been impacted? And if so, do you think we can get back on track after the pandemic has passed?
So absolutely, we're going to get back on track after the pandemic has passed. So some areas have already seen some production impacts from this because we've had to have some folks go on admin leave because we're splitting shifts out and trying to do as much social distancing as we can, and because some of the things aren't coming into our complex like they normally would be, we've definitely seen some production impacts. Of course, from the depot field team perspective, we've already turned off if there were requests or new requests or things that were scheduled to go into a high-risk area where we would send our folks in to someplace that we just don't want them, we turn those off. Or if it's something that wasn't completely mission critical, mission essential right now, we've turned those off. Whether we'll be able to get those back on the schedule anytime soon, that will be an impact, and we'll evaluate that as we go. But we're also still deploying. You guys, we're able to go into Luke, able to go into Nellis, some of the less risk areas as far as the disease is concerned. So some impact into production, but across the complex, folks are still coming into work. We're still producing product, still delivering aircraft, and so we're going to keep charging that way as we go forward.
Thank you. So, when you're assigning the depot field team travel or the civilian travel waivers, how do you measure the risk of the current pandemic and keeping our people green?
Right, so I appreciate that. And you mean by that making sure that all our military folks stay healthy?
Yes, ma'am.
So they have to go do a wartime mission. We're not worried that they're sick at home with COVID-19. Right. So very important to us. First and foremost, the safety of our airmen is the number one consideration when we decide if we're going to go ahead and send the depot field team out to go do that work. And there's a couple of things that happen. First of all, that waiver process has to be a general officer at that level to say you're allowed to travel to go do that. And second of all, we'll evaluate where that mission is. So if it's in a high-risk area, you're not going. If it's not 100% mission essential, we've got to turn that aircraft, then you're not going. But if the commander there on the ground where that aircraft is says this is mission essential, need you to come do it, and it's in an area that is not high risk, then we're going to ask you to go continue to do your mission, but still maintain, as you're out there, still maintain the normal precautions that you would.
Okay. So what is the production tipping point to start calling the complex workforce back to work? Or is there a risk that production will drop to zero for the sake of keeping our personnel safe?
Right, and when you say bring people back to work, you're talking about the folks that are on admin leave,
yes,
bringing them back in, right? So that's important. So across the board, it won't. If we were to go down, I'll ask answer the second part of that question. If we were to go down into shutting down operations, whether that were by shop or across the board for the whole depot, that would be based on the conditions on the ground. That decision would come with the help of public health officials, with the installation commander, us trying to decide what we are able to do safely. If that were to happen, it wouldn't be like when we have a snow event come through and everybody's got to be out of the gate in 20 minutes. This would be an orderly shutdown based on mission criticality, what shops can we shut down, what absolutely has to remain open. So we would make those decisions in an orderly fashion based on conditions on the ground. And those trigger points would be something like widespread transmission from the community of COVID-19, of the coronavirus, at least to COVID-19. So that would be the trigger point for a warm shutdown, an orderly shutdown process. We're nowhere near that right now, and that's a good thing. We're still our community is in a fairly low risk situation. Having said that, there are some shops that, because of the admin leave and who fell into that high risk category, that their production will be severely impacted just because there's not enough people there for a viable product. In those cases, if the workload that shop has is mission critical, perhaps there's MICAPs that are starting to occur because we're not turning product, or something's going on in the field, or we have some high back order numbers for that type workload, then we will bring those folks in on a case-by-case basis to be able to continue to do that mission-critical workload.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. Finally, our last question is, what would you say to the family members to reassure them that the complex is looking out for the well-being of the depot field team members while they're out on the road performing their mission?
Right. So thanks for asking that. I do want the families to know that first and foremost, we have our airmen's safety in mind. And so but even before anybody sets out, the first thing that's doing your workplace here, I mean, you all know it, you're doing extraordinary measures for cleaning like we never have. Everybody's following the normal precautions. We have people on different shifts. We have people taking lunch at different times, different breaks. We have folks teleworking to the max extent possible. We have as few people as we have near each other across the complex. So even before you go out the door, we've tried to reduce the risk of exposure to the max extent possible. And then after that, before you guys are going, we're making the decision on, is this a safe place for you to go? There's risk of transmission in all 50 states. We know that. But some is far less risk than other places. And so what we're to the max extent possible, we're making sure that you all don't go anywhere that's high risk to exposure. So only mission essential trips into an environment that's not high risk. And then once you're there, you all are super good at this anyway, following what we already know is precautions while you're there. And then on the way back to making sure that we bring you back, your travel is as safe as possible. If we can avoid airlines, we're avoiding airlines. If we can at all possible drive there, that's what we're doing. Want to make sure that the families know that, and also wanted to speak specific to the families right now. Thank you so much for what you're doing to support your airmen right now. You're very much a vital part of this team, and I really appreciate your patience and flexibility as we try to navigate through this unprecedented time. So thanks very much to the families, and thanks for asking the question about the families. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's you.
Good afternoon, all. This is Senior Master Sergeant Chris Butterbaugh, the Senior Enlisted Advisor for the complex. Over to you, Dr. Ubop.